What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And guys, we have got to get to talking about 1987. This is going to be 10 movies that I recommend from the year of 1987 on Blu-ray or 4K. Yes, I call these videos 10 movies I recommend that you own on Blu-ray, but I also do include some 4K titles in there because 4K Blu-ray, that's the technical name for it, right? At least that's what I see on Blu-ray.com. But yeah, 1987. Look, before I get into it, like, comment, subscribe. We talk about physical media, Blu-rays, and 4Ks on this channel. If you're discovering us for the first time, if you like that kind of stuff, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me, hit the subscribe button. Also, comment down below, guys. There are way more than 10 movies from 1987. If you want to give me some of your recommendations for 1987, let me know in that comment section below, because the comment section, I can almost guarantee for this video, is going to blow the F up. Because when I was looking at some of the movies, and I knew 1987 was a big year, but when I was looking at some of these movies, I was like, oh my God, people are going to kill me if I do not talk about this movie. And it got to the point where I had like 25 movies like that. And I was like, what the hell am I gonna do? So I will absolutely be doing a part 2 to this at some point for sure. I want to do a part 2 to all these years at some point because there's a lot of great movies in every year. But this year, I'm telling you right now, this was very tough. So what I decided to do, this is mostly all bangers. Like, these are all bangers right here. I grabbed some heavy hitters. I did not try to go too obscure. I got a couple here and there, but I've got some bangers here, the best of the best. And we're going to start off with a bang, guys. We're going to start off with a bang. We're going to start off with a bang, and we just got a resurgence, revitalization of this franchise this year with a film called Prey, but this is where it all started. Predator. Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers is without a shadow of a doubt one of the greatest horror, science fiction, monster movies, action films of all time. Directed by John McTiernan, same guy that did Die Hard. This is such a great movie. This is by far one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's greatest films, one of his most iconic films of all time. And that's saying something because he's the Terminator, but you have both the Terminator movies. You got this movie. That's easily my top 3 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. But this movie is so incredible. Like, if you have not seen The Predator, or Predator, The Predator, directed by Shane Black, was not as good. But The Predator, or Predator, God, why do I keep saying it wrong? But Predator is an amazing film. It's an amazing action film, but it's also got some incredibly horrific moments in it as well. But when you get to the end and they picked everybody off on the team and it comes down to Schwarzenegger versus the Predator, mano a mano, it's so incredible. But highly recommend Predator if you have not seen this. It's one of the greatest action films of all time. And this 4K release by 20th Century Fox is the ones that put this one out. This is before Disney bought Fox. We got Predator. So if you have not watched this, if you have not watched this 4K transfer, it is incredible. You can get it right now for $15.98. It is one of the best 4K transfers that's come out in the past few years. So absolutely recommend that. But yeah, 1987, we're starting off with a bang with Predator. My God, that is such a good movie. Such a good movie. And yeah, let's go into a more comedic space. We got a few comedies in here we're going to talk about. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles came out in 1987 with John Candy and Steve Martin, one of the greatest John Hughes comedies of all time. And yeah, this is what a lot of people would consider to be a Thanksgiving movie, one of the few Thanksgiving movies. I actually watched this for the first time last year on Thanksgiving morning. Absolutely loved it. I can completely see why this holds up in so many people's minds as just one of the best comedies from the 80s. It's a hilarious movie, but it also brings in a ton of heart, especially with John Candy's character. By the time you get to the end of this movie, like you've got tears welling up in your eyes over this story and this kind of friendship between these two guys in the movie. But I love it. It's hilarious. When Steve Martin's in the airport, he's just flipping out on that, or the rental place. Is he trying to rent the car? But I think it's in the airport. But he's flipping out on this woman, this attendant, and he's like, I want to get this F. He just keeps dropping the F-bomb on her over and over again. It's hilarious. But Steve Martin's just one of my favorites. John Candy, obviously one of my favorites. I have no idea how I made it through all of my life without seeing this movie, but I did, and I rectified that last Thanksgiving, watched it, loved it. It is another banger from 1987. You can get this steelbook right now for $16.99. And yeah, I will try to link all of these down below, the Amazon links if you want to check them out. But yeah, $16.99 for the Steelbook. When it came out last year, it was a little bit cheaper, but it's went up a bit. But this is a Paramount Steelbook. But yeah, hopefully we'll get a 4K on that one. Now let's get into the next one. This is one that I've watched recently as well. Really enjoyed it. Adventures in Babysitting came out in 1987. So a little bit more of an obscure pick. And I'm sure that some of you guys are going to be like, what? I grew up with that movie. It's not obscure. But it was one that I didn't grow up with, and I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. You got Elizabeth Shue in this movie, and just a bunch of shenanigans in the city. You got Keith Coogan in the film. I think that's his name, but that's the guy from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which is a movie that I did grow up with, and I did love that movie. So it was cool to see a younger version of him in this film. But the little girl with a little that's obsessed with Thor and wearing the Thor hat's really cute, and it's a really fun movie. It does get a little dark here and there in some spots, but it's a fun movie that I do highly recommend. Adventures in Babysitting is pretty awesome, and you can get that Blu-ray right now for $9.99. Now let's jump right into another banger from 1987. This is a Stanley Kubrick film, and that is Full Metal Mother Effin' Jacket. This is one of the best movies, best war movies that I have ever seen. If you have not seen Full Metal Jacket, it is such an experience. It's part psychological horror, part war movie. Like the first half of this movie with R. Lee Ermey in it as the drill instructor, like he is so good in this movie. He is so mean and nasty, and it's just like you're scared when you're watching him perform. And yeah, I would say the first half is very much so very super psychological, and then you get to the next half and it's more just like straight up war film in Vietnam, but such a great movie. It's definitely one of Stanley Kubrick's best. It's probably, honestly, it's at least my second favorite movie from Stanley Kubrick. I would put it behind The Shining, and my number 3, I think, would be Paths of Glory at this point. But I would put it behind The Shining as my second favorite Stanley Kubrick film. I think this movie is phenomenal. And this 4K by Warner Brothers, they did such a great job on this 4K restoration. It looks incredible. But yeah, Full Metal Jacket is one of the greatest movies of all time. And you can get that 4K right now for $21.99. So a little bit pricey. I would honestly, at this point, maybe recommend waiting until Black Friday, because I feel like it'll go down in price once we get to Black Friday. And I feel like that one fluctuates and goes on sale quite a bit as well. But that 4K is absolutely worth it if you do not have that in your collection. Now let's get into a John Carpenter film that came out in 1987. I feel like this is one that people sleep on and don't really talk about too much, and that is Prince of Darkness. And I do kind of understand why a lot of people don't talk about this one. And it is a little weird. It's a little out there with its themes and its subject matter, but it's a really good movie. It's really kind of creepy and eerie, and I really like the way it starts with just that they're videotaping that kind of grindhouse snuff film type filmmaking in the very beginning of it, and you have the shadows and stuff. It's really cool and really creepy. But yeah, there's just a lot of great gore in this movie as well, and it really just goes for this really wacky tone, but also kind of grounded as well, and just kind of scary and nasty and mean. And yeah, The Prince of Darkness though is a really good movie. You got Donald Pleasance in this film as well, and I do highly recommend it. Now, I just have the Blu-ray. I've not upgraded this one yet because it does have a 4K, but you can get the 4K for $27.99. You can get this Blu-ray for $17.99. So if you just want to try it out and see if you like it, again, you have all those special features on this Blu-ray that are present on that 4K disc. But I don't know, maybe I would just go ahead and recommend getting that 4K, because this one visually looks freaking spectacular, and I really feel like it would probably look great in the 4K format. But yeah, if you just want to get the Blu-ray that I have, it's $17.99. Now let's get into another really fun horror movie from 1987, one that I grew up with. I grew up with this movie. This is a sequel, but I did not grow up with the original, and that is Creepshow 2. Came out in 1987. So I loved this movie when I was a kid. I watched this one all the time, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just because the video store had this one and they didn't have the first one, but I just never watched the first one. I watched the first one for the first time 3 or 4 years ago, loved it, and I definitely see why that one's held up in more high regard than this one. But I still have a real soft spot for Creepshow 2, because again, it's the one I grew up with. And that raft scene with the tar blob thing always freaked me out as a kid, always got me when I was a kid. So I have to respect it for that. But it's also got some other cool stories in it. Now, what I will say is that this one only has 3 stories in it, 3 anthology. It's an anthology horror film. Only got 3 sub-stories, and Creepshow has 5. So I will take it down a little bit because Creepshow has more to offer you there. But the stories in this one are really awesome. You have Tom Savini that plays like one of the creature things in the beginning of the movie, which is pretty fun. He's actually on the cover right there. But yeah, it's a fun horror movie though. I do recommend it. Narrow Video did a great job. Now, interestingly enough, this is kind of the movie that got me into boutique Blu-rays because I was looking to get this on Blu-ray and I looked it up on Amazon. I was like, what's Arrow Video? And it was this one in house as well because both of those movies I remember watching as a kid. So I looked those up on Amazon. I was like, oh, what's Arrow Video? And I bought them, and that's how I kind of learned about Arrow Video and the you know, special editions with the special features and all that kind of stuff. But Creepshow 2, absolutely love. Would highly recommend this anthology horror film from 1987. You can get it for $25.72. So a little bit on the pricier side. Maybe wait for an Arrow sale because I feel like that'll go down to like $17.99 once those Arrow sales come into effect. But still a really good movie that I do recommend adding to your collection. Again, not as good as Creepshow, but it's up there, I would say. It's up there, I would say. Now let's go. We got 4 more. We got 4 more to talk about. And these are bangers. These are freaking bangers right here. We got Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 came out in 1987, the sequel to The Evil Dead. And man, this is an amazing horror film. I don't love it as much as the first The Evil Dead, but it's one that I feel like takes a little bit to grow on you because when I first watched it, I was like, what is this? I was like, this is basically like the same as the first movie, but it's just a lot goofier. But once you kind of get into it and get into what Sam Raimi was trying to do with the sequel, you do get to a point where you just really enjoy this movie and really appreciate it. And it just has some of the most terrific like gore effect sequences. And it's just awesome. Some of the best practical effects and just Sam Raimi, what he could do with such a limited budget was really amazing back in the 80s. And this is one that I do highly recommend. Bruce Campbell is dialed up to like 15 in this film, and it is absolutely fantastic. So Evil Dead 2 is one of the greatest horror films of the 80s, absolutely. And I would highly recommend you get this 4K release for $14.99. Now, you can get the Groovy box set and get the first film and the second film in 4K, and also the 3 seasons of Ash vs. Evil Dead. And I think that's like 50 or 55 bucks right now. But if you just want this 4K, it is $14.99 right now on Amazon.com. And all right, like I said, we got 3 more to go, and I'm gonna go ahead and recommend this one. I don't love it, but I'm gonna go ahead and recommend it because it's a big movie. It's a cultural phenomenon that came out in 1987. That is Dirty Dancing, starring Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. Like I said, I just watched this one for the first time last year. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I did like it. It really kind of reminded me of like a Friday the 13th film with like the summertime, like campiness and cheesiness and stuff like that. But without all the murdering. Like it's Friday the 13th without the massacring. But I don't know. It's a good movie. I do like it, but I don't know. You do feel the chemistry between Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey for sure. But I just wasn't like completely on board for the story and there's some of the directions that they take it throughout the film. But again, when you get to that ending, great music all throughout the movie. But when you get to the ending and they're playing Time of My Life and he lifts her up in the air and you're watching and you're like, this is why this movie's so iconic. This is really legitimately an iconic moment in film history. And I do appreciate it for that. And look at this steelbook. This steelbook is freaking amazing. Like I said, I didn't love the movie. But when this steelbook was announced, I scooped it up immediately. A Lionsgate steelbook. Look at the artwork on that. That is insane. Insane artwork. So yeah, really just wanted an excuse to show this one off again. Now you can get this steelbook for $33.90 right now on Best Buy. They still got some in stock. But if you want to go the cheaper route and just get this movie in 4K, it is available. They just came out with a Lionsgate slipcover for $17.99, so you can go that route as well. But Dirty Dancing, I do recommend you have in your collection. It definitely is one of the most important films of the 80s, and it came out in 1987. Now let's get into, again, we got 2 left. And let's talk about Fatal Attraction. This is one that just got a 4K release. I'm good with my Paramount Blu-ray because to be honest, like this looked really great with this Blu-ray transfer, this Paramount Presents transfer. So I am good with this scan for now. But yeah, Fatal Attraction is a really great suspense thriller. Glenn Close is just a psychopath in this movie and she is phenomenal at it. Michael Douglas is great in this movie. But yeah, just a really tense, like, sexual thriller, I guess what you would call it. Is that what you call it? But yeah, it's a very kind of, you know, provocative, like sexy, steamy movie that just goes into some crazy, almost horrific directions when you get to the last act of the movie. But it's batshit crazy, but I love it. It was a great movie. Again, I watched it for the first time when this release came out here, but absolutely loved it. Michael Douglas, Glenn Close, can't get any better as far as like actors to be in a movie like this. They really gave it their all in this movie. So Fatal Attraction, I highly would recommend to anybody. You can get this Paramount Presents release for $22.99, which is funny because the 4K is actually cheaper. You can get that for $19.99. So very interesting there. But yeah, Fatal Attraction is a good one. Now let's get into the pinnacle of this 1987 list. And I don't know, it would be very tough for me to choose between this and The Predator or Predator. Why do I keep saying The Predator? It's Predator, damn it. It would be so hard for me to choose between this and Predator as my favorite movie of 1987, but it would be damn close, and that I gotta talk about this one. I gotta, dun 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 dun, RoboCop. RoboCop in 4K, RoboCop. Has anybody seen RoboCop here? I'm sure you guys have seen RoboCop. This movie is so great. It's so great. I feel like every time I watch this movie, I go a couple of years and I forget just how great it is. And then I rewatch it and I'm like, Jesus, this is a masterpiece. It's so great. But yeah, RoboCop is so good. It really is more than just a guy walking around in a robotic suit taking down criminals. Like, it really brings in a lot of great social commentary, social, economical, political commentary that was very relevant at the time this movie came out, and it's still relevant to today. So it's something that you can still relate to. But also it brings a lot of emotion into it because you have Murphy that, you know, has lost his humanity and has lost his family, and just him coping with that loss as in his new robotic body, and he can't remember everything, but he's starting to remember. And there's some really heart-wrenching scenes in this film as well. But you know, just beyond that, it's just a kick-ass action film as well. Like, some spectacular action sequences. The music is so phenomenal in this movie as well. Practical effects, special effects, very gory, like all that stuff holds up remarkably well. The villain in this movie is fantastic, played by Kurtwood Smith, Red Foreman from That 70s Show. He is so great as the villain in this movie. And yeah, it's just a great movie. If you have not seen RoboCop, I'm telling you, you were sleeping on it because you thought it was like a silly, like, robotic guy walking around shooting people. You thought it was dumb. Get all that out of your brain. This is directed by Paul Verhoeven, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Go watch RoboCop. Get out of yourself. Get over yourself is what I meant, and go watch RoboCop. It's one of the greatest of all time. Now, you can get this 4K for $54.75 on Amazon currently, but I'm telling you right now, if you go to Best Buy, I'm pretty sure you might still see a couple of these on the shelf. I know I did when I went to Best Buy recently. It was probably one of the only things I saw on the shelf at Best Buy. So go to your Best Buy, see if you can find it there for a little bit cheaper, but then look online at like Best Buy or something like that. I'm sure it's a little bit cheaper, but I don't know why it's so expensive on Amazon right now. But there you have it, guys. That is my 10 movies from 1987 that I recommend that you do have in your 4K and Blu-ray collection. I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said, there's so many other movies from 1987 that I'm sure you guys are going to be screaming at me about through your phones, your TV screens, whatever you're watching me on. And I do respect that. And just know that I probably know about them. I'm probably aware of them. I'm just saving them for a future video. So again, comment down below any movies that I missed. Definitely want to hear about it, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of recommendations that I haven't even really heard of or even thought of or seen. Let me know in that comment section below. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell notifications, follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.